Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Shilpa Data Insights.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will be discussing one more topic of Python, which is actually a must to know Python. It's a basic. And we have already covered a lot of topics of Python. That is basically the data types, how to do an input, the string, the list, and how to declare a variable. And in the coming sessions, we also be discussing about other topics. Like in this particular video, we will be talking about the if statements, like the conditional statements, and how exactly you can use the conditional statements. Then we will be covering more topics, that is the for loop, while loop. After doing all the looping, then we will be discussing the other topics like the break and continue and so on. Okay, if you like the video and you are continuing watch the playlist, then do hit the like button, subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends so that the channel gets the maximum support and I will be able to create more videos related to the complete Python playlist. So let's get started with today's topic, that is the conditional statements. Okay, so let's discuss about the if statement. So what is exactly an if statement? So let's first understand the definition of if statement. So let's say you have a day, let's say it's a Monday and you will be traveling to office, right? And your cab needs to arrive and pick you up from your home and drop you in the office. Now, in this, if the cab arrives, then you will be going by cab. If let's say there's some problem and the cab doesn't arrive, then you will be either taking your own car or a public transport, right? In that case, there will be two statements. If the cab arrives, I will use the cab, else I will use the public transport. So that is the condition. If something happens, then I will be using it. If that doesn't happen, then I will be using a different transport, right? That is an if and else statement. That is how exactly in everyday basis it works. Now let's understand it in a programming language. It's the same thing that you work in the daily basis. It's the same thing in the programming language as well. So now this says if this particular code is true, do something, okay? Otherwise, do nothing. Let's say there is no else statement. If the cab arrives, then I will go to office. That's it. The sentence gets stopped there, right? And if in case the cab doesn't arrive, I don't know what to do. So I will not be putting that up. So in the if statement, if we will see, it says if this is true, do this, otherwise do nothing. Okay, so this is how we write. If the condition 1 is there, then do this. Do this means do anything, right? Either you write a code or you go eat or you go out and go to the office basically, right? In the cab. So how it works, I have a starting point here. In this particular starting point, I will check a condition. Let's say if the cab arrives, right? If the cab arrives, then what I will do? I will go ahead and reach office. If the cab doesn't arrive, then I don't know what to do, right? So this is what it is. So how it works, there's an if statement and there is a condition here. And in the condition, if it is true, then I will run this particular piece of code and it will come out of the if statement. If in case this statement is false, it will take this particular direction and will come out of the if statement. So what it does, either it will take this particular route or it will take this particular route. At the same time, we cannot have true and false, right? So either true will be true or false. So we have to take either way. We cannot have both the directions here. So either we will be taking the left side or we will be taking the right side. In this case, if we are taking it on the right side, it's true. And if in case we are taking the left side, it is false, right? So what it does is basically, it just checks whether it is true, then do this, otherwise do nothing. This is very important. Either you do it or you do nothing, okay? It's also not required you have to do everything. Either you do it or you do nothing. Okay, now you understand what is an if statement. I have given you a real world example as well, right? Now let's understand what is an else statement. In the else statement, what you do is you run all the previous condition, and if in case all the previous conditions are false, then you run the else statement. So for example, let's say I have my cab arrived, then I'm taking my cab to reach office. If let's say my cab doesn't arrive, if cab arrives is false, then I will go to my else block and then I will reach it using the public transport. That is the else statement. Now let's say I have my starting point here. This is my home. Okay, let me write it here. So basically this is my home. Okay, this is my starting point. Now if the cab arrives, then I will use the cab. If in case the cab doesn't arrive, then I will use the public transport. So what it means is it will take two directions. If in case this is true, then I will use the cab and I will reach the office. If in case it is false, the cab doesn't arrive, I have to take a public transport and reach my office, right? So this is my office location. Now, if you understand in a programming terms, what we have is in this, if in case this is my starting point, if this particular piece of code is true, then I will run this particular piece of code and it will come out of the if statement. If in case this is false, then I will run this particular piece of code and I will come out, right? So it depends on what is the outcome of the if statement. So this is my condition. What is my outcome of the if statement? So either I will go to the left of the code or I will go to the right of the code. I cannot have both left and right at the same time, because both the conditions cannot be, it cannot be true and false at the same time. This will give me only one result, either true or false, not both true and false, right? So this is not possible. So either it will go to the left or will go to the right. Now, if I understand here, in this if condition, I have if condition 1 is true, then I will do this. Else, if this condition is false, then I will do B. Okay, so what it means is I have to execute the statement, either this or that. Either I will execute this or I will execute that, left or right. Okay, now you understand how the if and else work. Now let's say I will do an Elif statement. In the Elif, what happens? Let's say I have multiple if condition. So in our example, what we were actually looking was, if the cab arrives, then I will use the cab, else I will use public transport. Okay, let me put another condition here. Let's say if the cab arrives, I will use the cab, and if my friend picks me up, then I will go with my friend. If my friend also doesn't pick me up, then I will use the public transport, right? Because maybe my friend has a car and he or she can pick me up. So I will do Elif the car, Elif friend arrives, then take friend, help, or you use your public transport. So now you see there are three conditions that you are checking, and you are, if both the conditions are not true, then you are using at the end the else statement. Okay. So let me remove this particular part. Now, in this runs, it will run only if all the previous conditions are false. If there are multiple if conditions, right? Then if all the conditions are false, these two, then it's going to check this condition and run this. And if in case this condition is also not true, then it's going to check the else statement, right? Now, if I see in this particular diagram, then I'll start with my pickup location. I'll check the if condition. If this is true, I will run this piece of code, which is A, and I will exit. If in case this particular condition is not true, okay, then I will use this particular path, and I have another condition again. I'll check if this condition is also true, then I will use this path and I will print B. If this condition is not true, after checking this, it went on the left side, and I'll check if this condition, either it can be true or false. If this is not true, then I will go ahead and run this piece of code and get out of the if else statement. So there are three conditions. So first is this, either it can take this particular path or it can take this particular path. If it is taking the false path, then it's going to check both the directions. Either it will be true or false, right? And if in case it's true, it's going to run this. And if it's going to false, then it's going to run this particular piece of code. Now you understand how exactly it works, right? Now let's go to the practical and see it in an example one by one. The if, else, elif. So first of all, let me put a score. Score is, let's say, student score. Okay, I'm trying to create a grading system of the students, in which I will go ahead and see who has scored more and what is the score of it. If in case it's greater than some score, then it's A. If it is less than some score, then it's B, and so on. So I'm assigning a score which is 50. Now, what I will do is I'm going to print my score. Okay. Once I print, I want to check if my score is greater than 90, then I will assign the value A, because if it is 90 means it is the greater value, right? It's A. Let me increase the font. Okay. Now, if you will see here, let me remove this and show you. I have talked about if score is greater than 90. Okay. Now, if you will see, if I put here score greater than 90, there is a red symbol here, red curly, right? Then in this means that there is some syntax error basically. So after the if condition, I have to call an action. Let's say I want to print something. Then in that case, for calling an action, I'll put a colon here, right? But still it shows me a red symbol. Why? Because my complete action is not being called. It's just the if statement is there. So for calling it, I will go ahead and print something. So I'll do print, let's say A. Now you see that red symbol is no longer there. Okay. So that red symbol is no longer there. Why? Because there is no syntax error. Now, if you will see here, there is some space, right? And here there is no space. Why are we putting space here? It should not be, right? If I go ahead and remove the space, you still see there is some tilde red symbol here. If you hover over this particular symbol, you will see there is an error. What error is this? It says here, it says indent expected. So what happens if you are putting any if statement? It always asks you for an indentation. Indentation means there are 4 space or 1 tab. So in Python, 1 tab is basically equal to 4 space. So either I put 1 tab here, okay, so it actually gives you 4 spaces, right? Or I can put 4 spaces using my space bar, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So that also I can go ahead and do. So you have to remember that in case you are writing an if statement, you have to use indentation. so that it knows that inside this if block I have to print A. This print statement is inside this if, and that's why we are using the indentation. In other programming language, you use curly braces, but in Python, you don't use curly braces, you use indentation. So make sure, don't forget to put indentation. Otherwise, it's going to give you the syntax errors, right? Now, this is the if statement. Let me run this particular file. You see the score is 50. It writes that the score is 50. Now it checks if score is greater than 90. Is 50 greater than 90? No, right? So it's not doing anything. It's not printing anything because this condition itself is not true. It's going to this. It says this condition doesn't satisfy. So it doesn't go to the fourth line. It stops here itself. Let's say I put it 100. Now my score is greater than 90, right? 100 is greater than 90. So it is going to this particular statement. So now you see it's printing A. So that is what is if. Now let's say in this condition that we put 50, it did not do anything, right? So how will I know what exactly is the case, right? In this case, if score is greater than 90, I'm printing A, that's fine. But if the score is greater than or less than 90, then I should print B, let's say. So I can write here if score is less than 90, then I am printing, let's say B, right? So what it will do is, in this particular case, it was showing B. Why? It will first go to the third statement. If score is greater than 90, no. So it's not doing anything. It's not going to the fourth line. Then it will check if score is less than 90. Yes, it is less than 90. So it's going to this particular statement and printing B. Now, in this, if you will see, there are two if statements and both the if statements are independent. So instead of putting some statement which is independent, I want to just check this condition, and if in case it's not greater than 90, whatever condition it comes, right, then I need to go to the else statement. So instead of this, I can just write else. If in case it's greater than 90, then I will go ahead and print A, else I will print B. Now let me run it. Yes, it is there. Now what I will see is, let's say I will print 100 in the score and I will print. Yes, it is A, so means it's greater than 90. Now let's say I will go ahead and do 80. Okay, so the score is not greater than 90, so it will come to this particular piece of code, that is the else statement. So this condition is not true. It will skip this and will come to the else. And once it comes to the else, then it's going to print B. Means it will check all the conditions which are before the else, and if that's not true, it's going to the else statement, that is print B, right? Now, let's say I have, I want to go ahead and check for 50 itself, or let's say for 60. Okay, now I will go ahead, either I can do, let's say here in this I will do an elif that we were learning, right? Elif score is greater than 80, then I will print, let's say B. Now I will not print here B, but I will print F. So what it does here is, I'll run this code. Let's see what's the result. It says it is F. So what exactly happened? It will first check if 60 is greater than 90. No, right? So it's not going to this particular statement. Then it will again check if 60 is greater than 90. No, right? So it is not going to this statement. Then if it doesn't go to this statement, then it will go back to the else statement directly. And in this else statement, it's going to execute F. Let me remove these things because this will give us syntax error. Now, let's say I will make here 85. Now think what will happen here. It will go ahead and execute this first. 85 is greater than 90? No, it will skip this statement and then it will go to Elif. Is 85 greater than 80? Yes, right? So it's going to the print statement. As soon as it hits the print statement, this condition is true and it actually executes print B. So therefore it doesn't have to go to the else statement. It will go to the else statement only if all the previous conditions are false. It means if both the conditions are false, then it's going to this particular else statement. So as we saw, let's say if I make here 30 and 30 is not greater than this condition is false, this condition is also false, and that's why it goes to the else statement and it's going to print the F here, right? Now you understand how to work with if, how to work with Elif, and how to work with else. And I've shown you how to work with independent if. Now, let's say I have this particular statement. I will remove this condition, right? Now, let's say I have here 100. What will happen? Now 100 is greater than 90, right? It's going to print this. Okay, then it is going and it will check this condition because it's independent if. Now this if is not dependent on this if, like this if is not dependent on this if, right? It will check, yes, it's true, it will print. Now then it will come to this if statement, yes, this is also true, then it will print B, right? So let's execute this. This is true, it's printing A. This is true, this is printing B. So it doesn't go to else. Now let's say if I make it 50 or 60, right? Then in that case, this is false, it's not doing anything. This is also false, so it will not do anything and it's just going to print your F. See, it's going to print your F. So now we understand the if, the else, if else, and also independent if, right? So let's go back to our next topic that we have. So as we have covered so many topics today, do practice them all and do watch the videos related to the variables, string, the operators, the data type, and also practice this if else condition, because if else is the foundational of any programming language, because you can actually control the flow, how exactly the code runs. Okay, so in the next video we will be learning how exactly you can code the if else in one line, and we will see some real time examples on how to implement if else in the real world scenarios. So if you do like the video, then hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe my channel to get more such videos related to Python and data engineering. Till the next video, stay tuned.
Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you have a good day.